There is a rule so powerful, so devastatingly effective, that those who master it become untouchable. Niccolo Machiavelli discovered this principle centuries ago, and it has been hidden in plain sight ever since, misunderstood by the masses, wielded by the few who truly understand power. The rule is this: never rely on the goodwill of others. The moment you depend on someone's loyalty, their affection, their promises, you give them the knife to destroy you. But when you become self-sufficient, when you build your life so that no single person can break you, you become untouchable. Today, we reveal Machiavelli's genius and the single rule that transforms ordinary men into forces that cannot be moved, cannot be manipulated, cannot be destroyed. You walk through life building dependencies. You trust your employer for income. You trust your friends for support. You trust your partner for emotional stability. And with each dependency, you forge a chain that binds you. These chains feel like connections, like relationships, like the fabric of a meaningful life. But Machiavelli saw them for what they truly are: vulnerabilities. Each person you depend upon holds power over you. They can withdraw their support, their resources, their affection, and watch you crumble. This is why you are not untouchable. This is why you can be hurt, controlled, abandoned. Because you have built your life on foundations you do not control. You have given others the power to determine your fate. The genius of Machiavelli lies in his cold, unflinching analysis of human nature and power dynamics. He observed that men act according to their interests, not their words. They remain loyal when loyalty serves them and betray when betrayal is profitable. They love you when you are useful and discard you when you are not. This is not cruelty. This is nature. And if you build your security on the assumption that people will act against their interests out of love for you, you are building on quicksand. The untouchable man understands this. He constructs his life so that he needs nothing from anyone that he cannot also provide for himself. He has multiple income sources, so no employer can threaten him. He has skills and resources, so no circumstance can leave him helpless. He has emotional self-sufficiency, so no relationship can destroy him. This does not mean he lives in isolation. It means he engages with others from a position of strength, not need. He chooses relationships, he does not depend on them. And this choice, this freedom, this independence is what makes him untouchable. Consider the man who has only one source of income, one employer who pays his bills. That employer owns him. He must accept disrespect, unfair treatment, unreasonable demands, because the alternative is financial ruin. He is not free. He is a slave wearing the costume of an employee. Now consider the man who has multiple income streams, savings, investments, skills that are marketable anywhere. His employer can fire him, and he will be inconvenienced, not destroyed. He can speak truthfully. He can set boundaries. He can walk away from situations that diminish him. Why? Because he is not dependent. He has built redundancy into his financial life, and redundancy is the foundation of invulnerability. The same principle applies to every area of existence. The man with one friend is vulnerable. The man with many is not. The man whose entire identity is tied to one role, one relationship, one achievement, can be shattered when that single pillar falls. The man who has diversified his identity, his relationships, his sources of meaning, cannot be broken by any single loss. This is Machiavelli's rule. Eliminate single points of failure. Build your life so that no one thing, no one person, no one circumstance can destroy you. Before we continue exploring this principle that separates the vulnerable from the untouchable, if you're ready to transform how you approach power and independence, subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell for more insights on Machiavellian strategy and personal sovereignty. Like this video if you understand that true strength comes from self-sufficiency, not from depending on others, and comment below with one area of your life where you've built too much dependency and what you're going to do about it. Now, let's dive deeper into the mechanisms that make this rule so powerful and how you can implement it in your own life. The first layer of understanding Machiavelli's rule is recognizing that dependency is invisible to those who are trapped in it. You do not see your chains until someone pulls them. You believe your employer values you, your friends cherish you, your partner needs you, and these beliefs feel like security. But they are illusions. They are comfortable stories you tell yourself to avoid the uncomfortable work of building true independence. The moment circumstances change, the moment it becomes inconvenient for others to support you, those illusions shatter. Your employer downsizes. Your friends are too busy with their own problems. Your partner finds someone they perceive as better. And suddenly you discover that what you thought was solid ground was nothing but fog. This is the moment that destroys most people. They invested everything in dependencies that failed them, and they have no backup systems, no alternative paths, no inner fortress to retreat to. They are exposed, vulnerable, and often they never recover. Machiavelli teaches us to be paranoid in the best possible way. Not paranoid in the sense of fearing everyone and trusting no one, but paranoid in the sense of always asking, what if this fails? What if this person leaves? What if this source of security disappears? And then, crucially, building systems so that the answer to those questions is, I will be fine. This is strategic paranoia. It is the paranoia of the wise, of those who understand that hope is not a strategy and trust is not a guarantee. The untouchable man always has a plan B, a plan C, and often plans all the way through the alphabet. He knows that the world is unpredictable, that people are unreliable, and that the only person he can truly count on is himself. So he builds accordingly. He does not put all his resources in one basket. He does not make himself dependent on any single relationship or opportunity. He spreads his risk, diversifies his assets, and maintains control over his own fate. Think about the political leaders Machiavelli studied. The ones who survived were not the most loved, nor the most virtuous. They were the ones who maintained power through control of resources, through strategic alliances that could be shifted when necessary, through military might that did not depend on the loyalty of any single general. They were untouchable because they built redundancy into every aspect of their power. If one alliance failed, they had others. If one army betrayed them, they had mercenaries or loyalists elsewhere. They never allowed themselves to be in a position where one betrayal, one reversal of fortune, could destroy them completely. This is why they endured while others fell. And this same principle applies to your life, regardless of your station. You may not command armies, but you command your time, your skills, your resources. Are you deploying them wisely? Are you building multiple pillars of support? Or are you risking everything on a single foundation that could crumble at any moment? The second layer of Machiavelli's genius is understanding that independence creates respect. When you need nothing from others, when you can walk away at any moment, people treat you differently. They sense that they cannot control you, cannot manipulate you, cannot take you for granted. This awareness changes the entire dynamic of your relationships. You are no longer the supplicant hoping for scraps of attention or opportunity. You are the prize that others must earn access to. This is not arrogance. This is the natural result of self-sufficiency. The man who has options does not chase. He selects. He does not beg. He negotiates. He does not tolerate disrespect because he knows he can simply remove himself from disrespectful situations. This selective engagement is what makes him valuable. It is what makes him untouchable. Consider how people respond to scarcity versus abundance. When something is rare, when access is limited, people value it highly. When something is always available, always accessible, it loses its allure. You are no different. If you are always available, always eager to please, always willing to sacrifice your needs for others, you become common. You become cheap. Not because you are inherently less valuable, but because you have signaled that you are. Your constant availability says, I have nothing better to do than serve you. Your inability to say no says, my time has no value. Your willingness to tolerate disrespect says, I do not respect myself. And people treat you accordingly. They take what you give and ask for more, because you have taught them that taking from you is free. But when you become selective, when you demonstrate through your actions that your time is valuable, that your presence is earned, that disrespect results in withdrawal, everything changes. People begin to chase you instead of you chasing them. They begin to value what you offer because they understand it can be taken away. This is the power of independence translated into social dynamics. Machiavelli observed that princes who depended on mercenaries often lost their states because mercenaries fight for money, not loyalty. The moment a higher bidder appears, or the moment the battle becomes dangerous, they flee or switch sides. The same is true of people in your life who are there because of what you provide them, not because of mutual respect or genuine connection. They are mercenaries of friendship, of employment, of romance. They will stay as long as you are useful and leave the moment you are not, or the moment a better option appears. This is why dependency on such people is fatal. You cannot build security on relationships that are transactional and self-interested. You can only build security on self-sufficiency and then engage with others from that position of strength. The untouchable man does not need a job. He chooses to work. He does not need a relationship. He chooses to be in one. He does not need friends. He chooses to invest in certain people. This distinction between need and choice is everything. Need is weakness. Choice is power. And the journey from need to choice is the journey from vulnerability to invulnerability. How do you make this journey? By systematically identifying every area where you are dependent and building alternatives. If you depend on one income, develop side income. If you depend on one skill, learn more. If your entire social life revolves around one group, expand your network. If your identity is tied to one achievement or role, cultivate other aspects of yourself. This is not easy work. It requires discipline, foresight, and the willingness to invest in yourself when it would be easier to remain comfortable in your dependencies. But this is the price of becoming untouchable. Now let us examine the third layer, emotional independence. This is perhaps the most difficult form of independence to achieve, yet it is the most crucial. Most people are emotionally dependent on others for validation, for happiness, for a sense of worth. They need others to approve of them, to love them, to affirm that they are valuable. This need is a chain more binding than any financial or social dependency. It makes you a puppet, dancing to the whims of those whose approval you seek. You censor yourself to avoid disapproval. You contort yourself to fit their expectations. You sacrifice your truth to maintain their affection, and in doing so, you lose yourself. You become a reflection of what others want you to be, not what you actually are. This is spiritual death. This is the opposite of untouchable. This is being entirely touchable, entirely vulnerable, entirely controlled. Machiavelli would tell you that a prince who needs to be loved by his subjects is weak. He will make decisions based on maintaining that love rather than on what is strategically necessary. He will avoid hard choices that might make him unpopular. He will compromise his objectives to preserve affection. And ultimately, he will fail, because leadership requires making unpopular decisions, setting boundaries, enforcing standards. The same is true in your personal life. If you need everyone to like you, you cannot set boundaries. If you need constant validation, you cannot be authentic. If you need approval, you cannot pursue your own path. You remain trapped in the prison of other people's opinions, forever at their mercy, forever touchable. The emotionally independent man derives his sense of worth from within. He knows his values, his principles, his goals, and he measures himself against those internal standards, not against the shifting opinions of others. This does not mean he is immune to feedback or indifferent to relationships. It means he is not dependent on them for his fundamental sense of self. He can receive criticism without being destroyed. He can lose relationships without losing himself. He can be rejected without believing he is worthless. This inner stability is the ultimate form of being untouchable, because no matter what happens externally, no matter who leaves, who criticizes, who betrays, he remains intact. His fortress is internal, and internal fortresses cannot be besieged by external forces. How do you build this emotional independence? Through the practice of self-reliance in meaning-making. You must learn to validate yourself. You must develop the capacity to sit with yourself, to enjoy your own company, to find satisfaction in your own judgment of your actions. This requires solitude, reflection, and the courage to face yourself honestly. Most people avoid this work because it is uncomfortable. It is easier to seek validation from others than to develop it from within. But this ease comes at the cost of perpetual vulnerability. The untouchable man does the hard work. He spends time alone. He questions his own motives and values. He builds a relationship with himself that is stronger than any external relationship. And from this foundation, he engages with the world not as a beggar seeking scraps of affection, but as a sovereign being choosing how to invest his energy. The fourth layer of Machiavelli's rule is understanding that being untouchable does not mean being isolated. It means engaging with others from a position of strength rather than need. The untouchable man has relationships, but they are relationships of mutual respect and voluntary association, not of dependency. He values his friends, but he does not need them to survive. He loves his partner, but he could continue without them if necessary. This might sound cold, but it is actually the foundation of healthy relationships. When you are with someone because you choose them, not because you need them, the relationship is authentic. There is no resentment, no hidden resentment born of dependency, no manipulation born of desperation. You are both free, and freedom is the soil in which genuine connection grows. Conversely, relationships built on need are toxic. The person who needs you resents you for their dependency. The person you need has power over you that they will, consciously or unconsciously, exploit. Both parties are trapped in a dance of control and resentment, masked by whatever affection exists on the surface. This is why so many relationships, professional and personal, are ultimately unsatisfying. They are not relationships between equals. They are relationships between dependent and provider, between weak and strong, between touchable and untouchable. And in such dynamics, respect is impossible. There can only be use, exploitation, and eventual dissolution. Machiavelli understood this. He understood that alliances built on mutual strength last longer than those built on one party's weakness. When both parties have options, when both could walk away, they treat each other with respect, because neither can be taken for granted. This is the paradox. The less you need each other, the better you treat each other. Apply this to your own life. The friend who has many friends values you more because he chooses you among options. The employer who could hire many people values you more if you have options elsewhere. The partner who could find others values you more if you have independence. Scarcity of options breeds desperation and poor treatment. Abundance of options breeds respect and good treatment. So the path to being untouchable is also the path to better relationships. By building your life so you need no one, you become someone everyone wants. This is the beautiful irony that Machiavelli reveals. The more self-sufficient you become, the more others desire your presence. The less you need them, the more they need you. And this inversion of the power dynamic is what makes you untouchable. Let us now examine historical examples of this principle in action. Machiavelli himself witnessed the rise and fall of numerous Italian princes. Those who survived were those who controlled their own armies, their own resources, their own territories. Those who fell were those who depended on the support of others, on mercenary armies, on the goodwill of neighboring states, on alliances that could be broken. Consider Cesare Borgia, whom Machiavelli admired despite his cruelty. Borgia built his power on control of territory, on a loyal army, on ruthless elimination of those who could threaten him. He made himself as independent as possible from external support. And while he ultimately fell due to circumstances beyond his control, his methodology was sound. He understood that dependency is death. Now consider modern examples. The entrepreneur who builds a business with one major client is vulnerable. That client can destroy him by withdrawing their business. But the entrepreneur with dozens of clients, no single one accounting for more than a small percentage of revenue, is untouchable. One client leaves, and the impact is minimal. The employee with one rare, valuable skill that multiple companies need is untouchable. He can be fired from one position and find another immediately. But the employee with common skills that are easily replaced is vulnerable. He must accept whatever treatment he receives because he has no alternatives. The person with a robust social network, multiple friend groups, diverse interests and communities, is untouchable. One group rejects him, and he has others. But the person whose entire social world revolves around one group is devastated when that group fractures or excludes him. In each case, the pattern is the same. Redundancy creates invulnerability. Diversification creates power. Independence creates options. And options create the ability to choose, which is the ultimate form of freedom. Machiavelli's genius was recognizing that this principle applies not just to princes and states, but to every human being navigating the complexities of power and survival. You may not rule a kingdom, but you rule your own life. And the question is whether you rule it from a position of strength or from a position of dependency. Are you the prince who controls his own fate, or the prince who depends on the mercy of others? The answer determines whether you are untouchable or whether you live at the mercy of forces you cannot control. The fifth and final layer is understanding that becoming untouchable is not a destination but a practice. You do not achieve independence once and then relax. You must maintain it constantly. Life changes, circumstances shift. New dependencies can creep in if you are not vigilant. The untouchable man audits his life regularly. He asks, where am I vulnerable? Where have I allowed dependency to grow? What would happen if this person, this income source, this relationship, this circumstance disappeared tomorrow? And if the answer is that he would be in trouble, he immediately begins building alternatives. This constant vigilance is what separates those who remain untouchable from those who become untouchable briefly and then fall back into vulnerability. Machiavelli lived in a time of constant political upheaval, where fortunes changed overnight and yesterday's ally became today's enemy. In such an environment, complacency was fatal. Those who rested on past successes, who assumed their power was secure, who failed to adapt to changing circumstances, were destroyed. The same is true today, though the battles are economic and social rather than military. The job that seems secure today can be eliminated tomorrow. The relationship that seems unbreakable today can end tomorrow. The income source that seems reliable today can dry up tomorrow. Nothing is permanent. Nothing is guaranteed. And those who build their lives as if permanence exists are living in a fantasy that reality will eventually shatter. The untouchable man accepts impermanence. He embraces it. He uses it as motivation to continually strengthen his position, to always be building, always be improving, always be reducing vulnerability. This mindset is exhausting to those who prefer comfort. It requires constant effort, constant awareness, constant growth. But it is also liberating. Because when you know you can handle whatever comes, when you have built systems that protect you from the storms of fortune, you stop fearing. You stop worrying about what others think, what they might do, whether they will stay or leave. You become calm in the center of chaos because you know that you are your own foundation. This psychological state, this inner peace born of preparedness, is perhaps the greatest gift of becoming untouchable. It is not just about external invulnerability, it is about internal serenity. It is about knowing that no matter what happens, you will survive, you will adapt, you will continue. This knowledge transforms how you move through the world. Consider the difference between two men facing a crisis. The first man has built his entire life on dependencies. When the crisis hits, when he loses his job or his relationship ends or his support network crumbles, he falls apart. He has no resources to draw on, no alternative paths, no inner strength to sustain him. He descends into despair, bitterness, and often never fully recovers. The second man has built his life on independence. When the same crisis hits, he is hurt, he is disappointed, but he is not destroyed. He has savings to sustain him while he finds new work. He has skills to leverage in different contexts. He has emotional resilience born of self-sufficiency. He grieves the loss, then he moves forward. He adapts, he rebuilds, and often he emerges stronger than before because adversity has revealed his strength to himself. This is the ultimate proof of being untouchable. Not that bad things don't happen to you, but that when they do, you remain standing. Machiavelli wrote that fortune is the arbiter of half our actions, but that she leaves the other half, or nearly so, to be governed by us. In other words, some things are beyond your control. You cannot prevent every misfortune. You cannot control what others do. You cannot stop the world from being chaotic and unpredictable. But you can control how you prepare, how you respond, how you build your life to withstand shocks. This is the half that is governed by you, and it is the half that determines whether you are touchable or untouchable. Most people spend their energy trying to control the uncontrollable, trying to make others love them, trying to make circumstances perfect, trying to eliminate all risk. And they fail, because these things cannot be controlled. The untouchable man focuses on what he can control: himself, his skills, his resources, his responses, his independence. And in doing so, he builds a life that is resilient regardless of what fortune throws at him. So now you understand Machiavelli's rule, the principle that makes a man untouchable. It is not complex, though it is difficult. It is not mysterious, though most never grasp it. The rule is simple: eliminate dependencies, build redundancy, create multiple pillars of support, develop skills, resources, relationships, and income sources so that no single point of failure can destroy you. Cultivate emotional independence so that your sense of worth comes from within, not from the opinions of others. Engage with the world from a position of choice, not need, and maintain this independence constantly, vigilantly, knowing that complacency breeds vulnerability. This is the path to becoming untouchable. It requires discipline. It requires foresight. It requires the courage to invest in yourself when it would be easier to depend on others. But the reward is freedom. The reward is power. The reward is the ability to move through life without fear, without desperation, without being at the mercy of forces you cannot control. Machiavelli showed us that in a world where everyone is fighting for survival, for status, for security, the ones who survive are not the strongest in the traditional sense, nor the most loved, nor the most virtuous. They are the ones who are untouchable, who have built their lives so that nothing and no one can bring them down. This is the genius Machiavelli revealed. This is the rule that separates the vulnerable from the invulnerable. Master it, and you master your fate. Ignore it, and you remain forever at the mercy of others.